approval of the salary board actions, and we will start with the Board of Voter Registration. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, members of the Salary Board, and thank you for allowing me to make a presentation to you this morning. I'm Gail Humphrey. I'm the Director of the Board of Elections, and before you, you have a request for a position name change in addition to the raising of a cap for the position. The position would go from Assistant Director to the Board of Elections to Deputy Director of the Board of Elections. It is currently capped at $84,048, and I'm asking to raise that cap to $94,000. The position will not go up to that maximum cap in the pay range.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I just have a couple. So if I heard you correctly, and I'm sorry this is echoing.
Am I?
No, it's not you. It's the system changed and I'm echoing. I believe you just said that you, and I think it was on the commissioners' meeting, or it will be on the meeting, that you intend to pay the position at $84,48, right?
I think we're going to intend to pay this position at $91,000.
Oh,
It
$91,000.
used to be capped at 84, and we're raising the cap to 94, but I think we intend to pay 91.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's been budgeted, is that correct? The increase?
We may go over a little bit in our budget for this. It's not budgeted at that point
Okay.
right now.
And the current person is making what now? The person in that position now?
The position is currently vacant. Right now, the person who was the assistant director is serving as the acting director. And the
Right,
person
but
serving as the acting director is making the pay of the previous director.
okay. But when she was the assistant director, she was making just under $82,000, right? And so that's going up effectively almost $10,000.
Correct.
Okay. And is there additional, why is that going up 10,000?
There are additional duties.
And what are those additional duties?
Well, I'm going to break it out in a larger answer, if I may, because the duties for the director, I think, are too lengthy, too arduous right now. So some of those duties will be given to this deputy director. With the advent of Act 77, which is the mail-in ballots, the job of everyone in the Board of Elections has increased immensely. Back when we had the Danaher machines, it was a much more, I'm never going to say simple, elections are never simple, but it was a much more routine, I would say rote kind of job that they would do twice a year, it's an election twice a year every year. With Act 77, not only do we have to do the mail-in ballots, we have our ballot boxes, and then we have Election Day. And traditionally, the assistant director that was serving in this position spent a great deal of time dealing with our poll workers. And it is hard, as you can imagine, to recruit and retain poll workers, and a great deal of time went towards that. Now, who was the assistant director acting as the director is doing mail-in ballots, is doing the polls, is doing all the new equipment, all the logic and accuracy testing. So I was challenged with looking at the leadership of that office. And what I did was put together some job descriptions that takes Act 77 on one side of the plate, if you will, and then everything else that is the Board of Elections, like campaign finance, petitions, those poll workers. And so I have a vision for this new position, which is something we haven't done, and we should have been doing, but simply it's just a matter of time and the amount of hours you have in a day, is I want this position to be a lot more proactive when dealing with those who are doing filings with the Board of Elections, for example, specifically with campaign finance filings. I think there's an opportunity to be a lot more proactive from a staff level. I think when you're a candidate, let's say, down at a supervisor level, even at a borough level, it's very confusing forms. There's a lot of, if you don't do this, then there's penalties involved. I don't think it's very comfortable for the members of the Board of Election when, for example, they have a school board member show up to them and say, why do I have to pay these fees for hoops I had to jump through that seem arcane and don't make any sense? So I've charged this position, I will be challenging this position to be more active with that side of the office, be a lot more proactive, in addition to working more with all poll workers to make sure that they have the training, with our provisional ballots. We've had some issues with that and a lot of confusion with our poll workers. But also at the same time to take some of the stress off the plate of the director, because if you read the news, you will see Pennsylvania is having a hard time retaining their directors. It's very stressful. There's a lot of spotlight on them from the media, especially here in Pennsylvania, nationally. So I'm trying to, with this move, to take some of the pressure off the director. And then that's why this position's name is changing to deputy director, so that we do have a succession plan in place. And it's not an assistant, it's more of almost a partner.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the assistant director moving to deputy director of Board of Elections?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Children and youth?
Good morning, I'm Rob Yoakum, the
Morning.
Director of Children and Youth. I'm here to request the addition of 6 caseworker positions and the deletion of 6 social work positions. We are making this request as we have historically struggled to fill our vacancies of social workers. Social workers requires a master's degree. Our applicants have been limited. We hope that making this move allows us to fill much-needed vacancies within the department. By doing this, we'll continue to have 7 vacant social work positions, so that as we have employees who are attaining their masters, or we're able to bring in master's level caseworkers, we'll still be able to do so.
Terrific. Any questions? Nope. Is there a motion to approve items 2 through 13?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Behavioral Health Services?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to make this request today. I am requesting an increase in the max cap on our managed care fiscal officer. It will be an increase of $1,680. The request is being made really for 2 purposes. One is we merged the mental health developmental programs and the behavioral health departments back in 2019. And since then, we've been trying to look at equity among similar positions. And this managed care fiscal officer position is very similar in terms of the competencies required as our fiscal officer 2 in the old mental health developmental programs. So even with increasing this cap, it will still not be at the max cap of that other position, but it will be closer, and it will allow me to then request a 3% increase on this position. The salary increase, it will be because of the significant increase in the volume and scope of work of the managed care unit. Frankly, all of the exempt positions in the managed care unit have faced significant increase in their workload over the past couple years. Reinvestment plans from the Health Choices agreements, even though this is only one portion of the oversight of this unit, have just exploded over the last couple years. We are currently managing 11 large plans. We have 3 that have been, an additional 3 that have been submitted for approval. We have 9 in the process of development, and another 9 plans in the consideration phase. All of these plans, the process with the State Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services is very complicated, and the requirements and oversight is complicated, and this has significantly stressed this unit. The volume and scope of what we're doing is driven by community need, but also being driven by increases in the requirements from the state office in terms of doing more in the community with community-based care management plans. And so really this unit is impacting housing, all different levels of care in the community. I would also like to note that under the Health Choices Agreement, the county does not pay for the salaries. There's no county match on the salaries. So this would not financially impact, from a salary standpoint, any county funds.
Any questions?
Yes, I have one. This managed care fiscal officer is also responsible for calculating the department's accruals and budget transfers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we pay an outside accounting service on a monthly basis to actually perform those job functions on behalf of this department. Is that correct?
We do have the outside accountant. Again, this is a whole system of checks and balances and requirements from the Health Choices Agreement about how we operate the unit.
And we've paid this outside accounting service as much as over $2,800 a month. Occasionally, it's $900 a month. I'm looking at two invoices in front of me, one for $2,853, another one for $1,895. With the additional increase in salary, will these outside accounting services no longer be required?
No, that's not true. We will continue with the outside accounting services as well. You know, the oversight that is responsible for also overseeing Magellan personnel, which is our behavioral health managed care organization. Just these reinvestment plans that I talked about represent over $36 million. And that's in addition to the hundreds of millions that the Health Choices Agreement is for.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move to approve item 14.
Is there a second? Did you want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Can I just ask you one question? Do you have any option anyway? Like, isn't there a requirement for that outside firm to do that?
That's what I was saying. The terms of the Health Choices Agreement is driven by the State Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, and that's, you know, part of the reason of the complexity.
So we can't back out of it, even if we wanted to?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Park Rangers.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board.
Good morning.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak before you today. I basically have two requests before you. The first having a few components. I would like to reorganize the Ranger Division to more of a traditional law enforcement supervisory structure. Currently, I have a sergeant, 3 corporals, and 9 Rangers under my command. I would like, the sergeant has a dual responsibility of administrative tasks and is a first-line supervisor, while the corporals are strictly a first-line supervisor. So what I would like to do is eliminate the sergeant's position, create a lieutenant, and then promote another corporal. By doing this, this will help me in the administrative tasks that I have on a daily basis, and it will ensure supervision across the board on all the 4 squads. And then my second request is I'm requesting the board to increase the cap for our deputy rangers from $15.09 to $20. I've been told the last couple of years we've been having difficulty bringing somebody in, and we believe that is part and due because of the cost and the competitive wages in Bucks County.
Any questions?
In terms of overall impact on your budget, what's the overall income?
There's going to be no impact on my budget. Promoting lieutenant will create some savings in the 2024 budget that will absorb that cost.
Okay.
Is there do you want to do this this is the board can decide? Do you want to do this as one and make one motion?
I'll make a motion to approve items 15 through 19.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Controller's Office.
Yes, good morning. Before you is our 3 salary board actions, moving the 3 supervisory positions to exempt, and with it, We've also increased the hours, so these 3 positions are currently at 37 and a half hours. We are increasing that to 80-hour biweekly, 80-hour biweekly. We've capped it, the proposed salary caps do reflect an industry standard for all 3 positions. And so this has been something that's been discussed since before my tenure as controller. And the move at this time seems to be the right time. I will note that all 3 of the supervisors will not be near the caps. Before today's meeting, I did have some discussions where the annual salary cap proposed seemed to, there was some concern about the proposed salary cap, even though the proposed salary caps do reflect an industry standard. So these 3 individuals have deadlines. They work for the entire county. They traditionally work certain amounts of overtime. And I can go through each position if you'd like. In addressing some of the board members' concern over the proposed salary cap, I am willing to drop the salary cap to $117,000, which is a $13,728 increase over the current hourly caps. But it reflects more hours per week. So I would make a motion to approve the 3 supervisory salary board actions.
Are there any questions? Anyone
I'll second that motion.
I usually just take questions first. We can have that second, but I'm not going to do the vote till we have a chance for questions.
Yeah, I appreciate the controller willing to drop the proposed. She had originally 125 as a cap for all 3 positions. I appreciate dropping it to 117. I still feel like it's too high, in honesty. I think in terms of other row offices, I appreciate certainly the work that's been done. I know that they've been putting in tremendous amounts of overtime in this office. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to restructure the department so that they don't have to work as many hours. I mean, I know it's 80 hours on here, but I think a lot of them have been averaging, in some cases, 1,000 hours of overtime a year. I was just wondering if there's a better way to sort of move some of the funding around to maybe hire other people in the staff who could be working with them. As a way to do this. That's just my thoughts.
The good news is that I understand that these people made $55,000 in overtime and $23,000 in overtime last year. The year before, $63,000. That's too much overtime. So I'm really glad that we are going to make this exempt, and I certainly agree that you would want to give them a raise. Now, with the current cap on the pre-audit supervisor, you can give that person today a $25,000 raise, and the payroll supervisor at 103, you could give them a $20,000 raise today. So those 2 don't really need any raise in cap. I would agree that the senior retirement specialist, you would only be able to give them about an $8,000. So I would just make that 103, just like the others, and have it a uniform cap. I would make a motion to approve items 1 through 6 with a cap of 103 and number 7 at a cap of 125. Is there a second for that?
What's the proper?
Any comment on that?
Do you want to vote? Am I supposed to vote on the first one first? There's a motion on the floor. Okay, all right. I'll withdraw that until so a vote on the first one. All in favor?
Can I respond? Can I have a comment to respond?
Oh, please do.
Thank you. So it's a little disingenuous that this administration is trying to dictate how much I pay my employees. With that, I will lay out what these 3 employees have done. But I will start by reading some excerpts from last month's salary board, where I asked for a very small merit bonuses due to the extra work that these 3 individuals and a few others have performed, because I had a budget surplus last year in 2023. So if you recall, I was only asking for $15,500 out of that $50,000 budget surplus. Commissioner Harvey stated with conversations he certainly doesn't doubt the hard work of my staff. He stated that they had talked before with last year's budget, he guessed sometime in November or December, talked about the fact that they felt that not only were raises more appropriate for the staff, he stated certainly providing raises, he would be in favor of raises for the Controller's Department instead of bonuses. But also he knows looking for a second deputy was something else he was fully in favor of in the Controller's office. He states he thinks that is certainly something that he would be in favor of. He thinks in general that raises are better for the staff. Mind you, after I pointed out all of the bonuses, merit bonuses or retention bonuses that were given, that the law office bonuses was a unique situation. Commissioner Marseglia stated they put money in the budget for you to be able to give raises to your employees. She stated all of them. She stated she supports that. She stated you have 7 vacancies, which makes her think you are not able to fill them, and she thinks it is because the positions are so low. That is not true. We have not tried to fill those positions. Commissioner Marseglia stated she too would suggest that they come back to salary board next month, and your staff certainly deserves these raises, and she would be in favor of them. I would like to note that 2 of the 3 positions, 2 of the higher paid positions, the payroll supervisor position and the retirement board supervisor position, have not received a merit raise since 2021. So they are due for a raise, and we are asking them to go exempt on top of that. And I just would like to note that I then pointed out that these raises were not included in the Controller's 2024 budget. The Controller's 2024 budget did not have enough in the budget to cover the Controller's staff's COLAs for that year, for this year. I would also like to, I believe 2 salary boards ago, Dr. Damsker came to us seeking a salary increase for the Bureau Director of Finance. I questioned it because originally the cap requested was $103,000, which is what the commissioners today are proposing. 2 of the 3 commissioners today are proposing. But that was changed to $115,000 salary cap. I asked Dr. Damsker why he changed the salary cap from $103,000 to $115,000. Remember, this is a salary cap for a position that does work for only 1 department, as opposed to the controller's, the supervisor's responsibilities in the controller's office. Dr. Damsker stated that HR recommended it because he has 3 bureau directors now in the department at that cap. She stated, then I stated that that cap would be higher than the Deputy Chief Finance Officer, and it was $20,000 higher than one of my top accountants in my office who works in the Controller's Department. But HR recommended that salary increase. That position is over, that current position is set at a salary cap of $115,000. In addition, I have, I believe, 8 pages here of salaries in the county that are well into the 6 figures. Half of them are making more than the cap of my 3 supervisors, than 2 of my 3 supervisors. I would also like to say that since COVID, the sheer amount, as far as the retirement has gone, there has been a significant increase in employee exodus since 2020. That continues. These retirees don't go away. And I'll just go through a few other items. The ERP department pretty much collapsed when this administration moved ERP system to IT department, causing significantly more work for my department, including it affects payroll, it affects retirement, and it affects AP. The voluminous retention and merit bonuses that were given to the law department, courts, the DA, domestic relations department, adult probation, corrections, Neshaminy Manor, and sheriff's department also added additional work for payroll, for retirement, and for AP, especially when those retention bonuses were given before these employees were actually retained, and then we had to chase them back when they left. In addition, the union contracts and retros, there were over 20, I think, in 2021 and 2022 and 23. Several of them had more than a year in retros, or had a year. I think one had more than a year, which it is not a simple push of the button. There's a lot of work that goes into that. In addition to the union contracts, the work that puts on my department, the HR and the unions have completely different interpretations of the terms that were negotiated and agreed upon, causing additional work for my employees. The ERAP program has put significant workload on our AP department, and although the ERAP department is winding down, we now have the new home project. Also with the union contracts, some of those were arbitrated, and of course, with all of the union contracts, there are strict deadlines. Doesn't matter if there's a holiday in there, every employee gets paid. Doesn't matter how many retirees are retiring this month, next month, they will retire and the work will get done. Doesn't matter, every week we have AP deadlines. And how many millions of dollars do we average per week, Kim? 10 million. 10 million we average per week. So a year, how many million is that, Kim? A lot of millions, right. Moving forward, what this administration, what two of the board members are proposing could be an effective decrease for these employees, which would be completely unfair. We are asking for more hours. There are significant changes coming down the pike with a completely new ERP system, and which we don't know what will bring. They will have to train. They will have to train. We propose to have a deputy controller come in looking towards the future. Nobody in the county wants Kim to retire, but eventually she will, and we have to prepare for that. But a deputy controller will require, a second deputy, excuse me, will require significant training with these three supervisors. And so we are asking these three supervisors to do a lot of work coming down the pike. Now, we are not controller's office historically, and I think my over 2 years here has demonstrated that I'm pretty fiscally conservative. The cap that I'm requesting at 117, which I've come down to, is completely reasonable for these three positions. I've been asked, why don't you just hire more people? Which is nonsensical. Because then we'd be paying benefits, we'd be paying, another pension. It is nonsensical when, hopefully, knock on wood, with a new ERP system, things will change in 2 years. So we are asking these three individuals to move to exempt. Yet, we are asking them to increase their hours. They haven't had a raise in 3 years. A raise is due. And so I think what I'm asking for is completely reasonable. I'm not asking for favoritism. I'm asking this board to simply do what's right on behalf of its hardworking, dedicated county employees.
Just a few things. I take issue with the disingenuous part, which is why I'm going to respond. To begin with the ERP, wouldn't say collapsed, I would say it was incredibly badly managed, and when that manager left, the fact that that manager hadn't trained anybody under her and had to take on any of the roles that were remaining when she left, caused a great deal of problems. And so I appreciate the work the IT department put in to try and get that up and running. You talked about a $50,000 budget surplus from last year, but this is this year. And so at the same time, you mentioned that you don't think you have the budget, to cover things. So the $50,000 doesn't just sort of hang around. It doesn't go into a little special box that we can use the following year. This is the government, and so it goes back in the general fund. You mentioned you have 7 vacancies, which you have not tried to fill. You also mentioned that your employees haven't gotten a raise in 3 years. Well, you've been there. Now this is your 3rd year. So if you felt like they deserved raises, you had the ability to give them raises. And as Commissioner Marseglia pointed out, for at least 2 of these positions, you could have given them sizable raises to get up to this point. In terms of, you talked about their hours increasing. In fact, I think the object should be to decrease their overall hours, for example, overtime. If these individuals are working upwards of 1,000 hours of overtime throughout the year, it's not fair to them. If you can provide more staff members, if you can hire more people, you actually can assist them in being able to do their jobs and have a work-life balance so that they're not putting in 50 hours a week. And at this point, you'd be basically, the work I don't think is going to shrink for them. We talk about retirements, we talk about, as you mentioned, the state program, the whole home repair program, things like that. That's not, going to get less. The ERAP program is winding down, but if the amount of work they're doing is not shrinking, simply saying, well, now you're exempt and you're only working 80 hours every 2 weeks. Well, they're still going to have to put in extra time. My view, and you mentioned the fact that you second deputy. I am going to be completely in line with item 7. I'd be happy to make the motion for item 7 when we get to it, with no changes to how it's presented. But I do think that. What we're asking is really, we're thinking about the number of hours, the amount of work that your employees do, and the fact that you are 7 people down is, I think, a driving force here in the reason why you have these people working tremendous amounts of overtime and racking up enormous amounts of overtime pay. I don't think I'm sure they like the money, but at some point I'm sure the money doesn't make up enough for lost time with family and weekends and nights and everything else they have to put in. It's my view, by taking some of this money that you would allocate, putting it toward, hiring additional staff, I think is really the better way to, to kind of change that, that unbalanced situation.
I just, want to talk to the public actually about this, because I always try to go with things, and can I explain this to the public, and would they understand their taxpayer dollars? So I just wanted the public to begin with saying, of course we think people need raises, and we do give COLA raises. It's rare that merit raises are given, but the controller has the right to do it under her 1620 rights. Within the controller's office, there are 4 people making in the 40K range, 5 making in the 50K range, 5 making in the 60K range, and 2 in the 70K range. But I really want the public to hear this. The payroll supervisor salary right now is $83,000, okay? But with overtime last year, they made $55,000 in overtime. That doesn't make sense. We have children and youth workers who go 3 miles, who are questioned when they have 3 miles that they went that was out of the direction of the tool we use, and we don't pay their mileage. But we allow a $55,000 and $65,000 and $34,000 in overtime. That's mismanagement. It's complete mismanagement. It's basic, what you would learn when you went to school or you took any course in this. You do not pay people. It's abusive to pay people that kind of salary and they demand those kind of hours. And frankly, it's heartless to pay people those lower amounts when you're trying to pay. You are paying people $55,000 in overtime when you have people that are making less than that in there. When we talked about raises, we meant raises. We really meant them for everyone, not just your top people. I am telling you right now today with the caps, you can give one of those people a $15,000 raise today. You can give another one a $25,000 raise. You don't need this 117K cap, and the only reason I can think you did it is because that's what Montgomery County has as their cap. But we're not Montgomery County, and they have half as many employees over there as you do. This kind of management has to be thought of again. I don't know how the Controller's Office got away with it all these years. I guess because you're in charge of the money and keeping an eye on it, I actually trusted that you were doing the right thing, but I am shocked at these numbers. I'm embarrassed I didn't know it before.
Oh, okay, my turn again. Respectfully, two of these commissioners don't really know what they're talking about. So let's just address a few of the major items one by one. The ERP was blamed on one person. Actually, that person was driven out of the county. And I mean, it's a shame. She was driven out by a new boss. And I can tell you that when she was running the department, things ran quite smoothly. That's not to say that the current people are not working very hard. It's not, I'm not placing blame on the current people. They are trying very hard to get the work done. But we are talking about hours and hours and hours of additional work that my employees that my supervisors are required to do. Why? Because the vendors still have to get paid. The run still happens every week. The paychecks still have to happen, regardless. When everyone else is home on a Monday because we have Memorial Day off, the payroll still has to run. So my employees are in on Sunday, okay? The additional work for ERP, for retirement, how many hours did Kathy Jo have to put in last year because ERP couldn't, after 4 months, get the necessary reports completed? Kathy Jo had to manually create that report herself. It's not to say that ERP didn't try. I'm just saying before, two commissioners are blaming the ERP fiasco on somebody that was driven out of the county. Staff members, 7 vacancies were brought up, and how I mismanaged, or the Controller's Office was mismanaged. Again, that's an insult to my deputy controller, it's an insult to Neil Doherty, and it's an insult to me. Those 7 vacancies, how many are budgeted, Kim? None. As a matter of fact, we have an additional, what? The audit position was budgeted, so one of the positions was budgeted just this year. It wasn't budgeted for 2023. We take our budget very seriously. When someone retires, as what happened in 2023, everyone else picks up the slack. Everyone else works more, including our payroll, including our AP department, including our retirement department. Everybody picks up additional slack. We did hire somebody to help, we have hired additional people in payroll because we had a retired person there too, and then we had somebody leave on maternity leave. So we have been making progress with getting the help that these 3 supervisors need. It's interesting that you, Commissioner Marseglia mentioned Montgomery County. Their salary caps are higher, yet they have half the employees. They also go out for payroll, don't they, Kim? They outsource their payroll. They
Could
do
easily
not
do that. That
I'm
would
not
not be a
done.
problem.
I am not done.
I'm just agreeing that we should outsource our payroll.
The commissioners do not get to make that decision. It is in the county code, the county controller makes that decision.
We'd save money.
I would like to add, county government is this wonderful system of checks and balances. The controller, the treasurer is a check and balance to the commissioner's spending. And I think that my department is being targeted today. I was at my department. Our job is to help everybody in this county, the commissioners, every single department. If one of the departments, if they're trying to get an invoice through and it's not under the contract, we deny that payment. But guess what? We work really hard with every single department to make sure that if it can be done legally, that we won't get it to happen. As a matter of fact, I was asked to approve an invoice over $1,700 to pay for this administration's inauguration private luncheon. And I denied it. Why? Because we protect the county. How would that look to the county if the newspapers got a hold of that and said, oh, the county's paying $1,700 for a private political party?
Whoa.
It would not look good. But we don't do it. We check, yes, we check for fraud, waste, and abuse. We check everybody's mileage because that's the county taxpayer dollars. And so that's what we do. You said we have 4 people making $40,000 a year. Again, it's nonsensical that the commissioners are attacking what we pay. Are you suggesting that we pay somebody who scans the same amount that we pay an accountant? I think not. I think not. Not to mention the person who is in the 40,000 range, the few people, they get raises. Again, we take our budget very seriously. We are given a budget every year. When we bring somebody in, when we bring in new employees, we start them off lower. If they deserve it and they work hard, it's ended recording. Do you want to fix it or no? We bring our employees in at a lower amount. If they deserve it, we give them more. If they work hard, if it's not cut out for the job, then we let them go. What are the item numbers? Donna? Thank you. Thank you. If items 1 through 6 are not approved with the decreased salary amount of 117, then I will withdraw all 7 salary board actions.
So we have a motion on the table and a second that needs to be called, right? That's right. Okay, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No?
No.
Okay, is there any other motions?
I would make a motion to approve item 7, creation of a second deputy controller in the cap of $125,000.
Second. Any questions? Is there a vote? I'll call
I
the vote.
oppose these.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Any other motions?